welcome to our live today at Momentum Fitness with Dr. Susan Sklar. She is a Harvard-trained doctor. She's my doctor, and she's already done 2 talks here that have been incredible about hormones. And one of the things that we found that I got from the last 2 talks was that there's many women out there right now that are doing everything really right about their health, but we know nothing about hormones, and neither do some of our doctors, unfortunately. And so they're going to the doctors and being misinformed. This is not Dr. Sklar saying this, but it is me saying this, that you have to be, you got to put the time in and listen to people who are doing the research and who are passionate about this topic, maybe even before you go to your doctor, so you know how to advocate for yourself. Now listen, for all you chickens who didn't show up today to the Libido talk, I know you'll be watching this, so we're going to also save it and post it again, so if you missed the live, you also get another chance to see this. But libido is really important, and Dr. Sklar, she's a doctor, she can talk about all that stuff. But I'm going to help and ask some of the questions. If you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask, just post them. We're watching the live, and we will ask them for you. All right, shall we begin?
All right, let's get started. I noticed it's a much smaller turnout today than we usually have. So all you people at home.
Right, they're watching. I got questions though.
As Amanda said, I'm Dr. Susan Sklar, the founder and medical director of the Sklar Center for Restorative Medicine. And the information's on the slide, and I'll give you more information on how to get a hold of me if you'd like to. Okay, so we're going to talk about sex, which usually makes people somewhat uncomfortable. You might get giggly, you might blush. As we said, there's a lot of people that aren't here, but I do want to give you the information, and I'm glad that we'll be live streaming as well as posting it so that people can get the information one way or the other. The slideshow is I wrote for women only, but also for the men in their lives, because men need to know what women are going through so they can better understand the women in their lives and rise to the occasion, right? So first we want to talk about really what is sexual wellness. And there's a lot that sex talks can be about, and this is really about, we're at the Sklar Center about achieving your optimal health, your optimal brain health, your optimal body health, and also your optimal sexual health. So this is not going to deal with kinky stuff or people who have sexual abnormalities. This is really kind of more mainstream, and these are the things that I hear about all the time. So it's a path. It's something that you need to work on. The essence of sex is communication. There's sex without communication, there's one-night stands and all that stuff. We're not talking about that. We're talking about sex as an expression of how you feel about somebody. Because that really is what sexual wellness is. So the first thing I like to do, because people do have trouble talking about it and they have trouble naming the anatomic body parts involved and things like that, is we do a little exercise where we're going to read, and it's literally from this novel that's by Sandra Martin, and it's supposed to be hot, and so she has euphemisms for everything, but we're going to read what she wrote, a couple of paragraphs. We're going to read it together using the correct anatomic terms. Okay, so let's all do it together. Okay, this is a romance novel. Words you will never read in a romance novel. All right. His penis had turned rock hard, and she caught her breath again, and he knew she felt his aroused penis against her belly. Nicholas wanted more. Wanted her naked beneath him, her legs wrapped around his hips, her body lifting to his, her silken vagina taking him deep, deep, deep. Very good. So I'm going to give you some examples of the patients that I run into, the typical things that I come across. This is a typical patient in her late 30s. She's been married for 15 years, got a few kids. Her sex life's taken a nosedive. Her husband's interested, but he's really stressed and he's having some sexual function problems himself. And when she comes to see me, she's like, what am I going to do? I'm in a marriage, but I really could care less if I ever have sex again. So we know that that can be due for a marriage. Here's somebody who's closer to menopause, who started a menopause transition and decided she was going to take the natural route. And it worked out at first, and it usually does, about a year or maybe even 2 years after women have their last menstrual period. Your vaginal tissues are still somewhat healthy, but then it dwindles because you don't have estrogen on board. 6 months ago, she started using some lubricating jelly for sex because of feeling dry. And then more recently, sex, and after a while, lubrication doesn't work, and sex gets so painful, it actually feels like there's sandpaper rubbing against your insides if you get really dry. And she wonders if she'll ever be able to have sex again. And I see lots of women like this, and it's totally fixable. So usually people go like, phew, when I tell them it's completely reversible. So the common things that we see are loss of desire, meaning you're not thinking about sex, you don't particularly want it, you maybe do it to satisfy your partner. You're having trouble getting aroused, so that usually like the time it takes to orgasm or the intensity of orgasms is diminished, and that has to do with arousal, also responsiveness, and the issue of vaginal dryness and pain, because it's really hard to have enjoyable sex. You can't if you're in pain. So these are some of the changes we see, and we don't just see them in women in menopause. By the time somebody's 38 or 40, some of their hormones are half of what they were earlier in life. And that goes for testosterone and DHEA. And DHEA is a precursor hormone. Dehydroepiandrosterone is a precursor hormone for testosterone. And then what happens at around later on, maybe in the 40s, on to age 50s, is lack of estrogen. And so your desire for sex, the health of your vaginal linings, all of that is under the influence of estrogen. Testosterone levels immediately, well, they've been dwindling all through life, but they drop in half at menopause because the half that's made by your ovaries goes away. And testosterone for men as well as women is involved in desire for sex and sexual functioning. So one thing that many women and even doctors don't know, and I know it because I've had expertise specifically in women's sexual function, is that women actually have testosterone receptors in the clitoris and vulvar area. That means when you put testosterone there, there is a place for it to go and have influence. And so I see people who have the orgasm problems I was talking about, taking longer, not as intense, not enjoying it as much, after they use testosterone on the vaginal area and the clitoris, those things get fixed. So it's using hormones and also knowing where to use them. And then the other thing that happens with diminishing estrogen is you get less blood flow to the genital area, and your arousal and sensitivity depends on those tissues getting engorged. Just like a man's penis gets erect, women's tissues get engorged with blood and get firm and somewhat erect, and that makes it us more sensitive to touch and more able to have orgasms. And then there are other things that can happen. I mean, as people get older, they get chronic diseases like high blood pressure and diabetes. Those affect your blood vessels. We know that diabetics have a higher incidence of strokes and heart attacks because they have plaque in their arteries. Men who have plaque in their arteries can have erectile problems because they rely on nice healthy arteries for that blood flowing to the penis, and women rely on that nice healthy arteries for blood flow into the genital area so that you can enjoy sex. And other things like medications such as antidepressants. Antidepressants have a really well-known effect on lowering desire for sex and orgasmic dysfunction. So being on medication really can present a problem sexually. And there are a lot of antidotes for that. There are a number of things that can be done. And sometimes after surgery, especially hysterectomy, women will notice a change in their sex lives. And it's something that really needs to be considered seriously before having surgery. And there was a move a few years ago to maintain women's cervix if it didn't have to get removed, even though the uterus on top of it maybe actually needed to get removed. with the idea toward preserving sexual function, and I don't think that really panned out. So there are nerves that go to the vaginal area and to your genital area that can be affected during surgery. So you really want to question, do you have options besides surgery? And then there are other things, because women are very complex when it comes to their sexuality. How we feel about ourselves. Do we feel fat and unattractive? Guys guys go look in the mirror, they got the big belly and go, I look pretty good. And women go like, oh, my butt's so big, my arms are like, got wavy things. I don't think I'm as attractive as I used to be, and that affects your sexuality. Here's another typical situation that happens to midlife women. The sandwich generation, caught between caring for elderly parents, teenagers still around and needing a lot of attention. This woman's married to a husband who owns his own business, his hours are flexible, he likes making love with her, and she's exhausted at the end of the day. That's like the last thing that she wants to think about, is having sex. She's too tired. And so the question is, how do you know if you might have a problem? Because everybody wants to know, what's normal? And normal in sexuality is very, very broad. So the question is, when is it not normal, or when should you do something about it? So if sex doesn't feel good anymore, it used to feel good, it doesn't feel good anymore. If you have pain, if you have difficulty getting excited or aroused, if your relationship lacks intimacy, or if there are problems in your relationship because of sex. And that doesn't take into account other things that can go on with women who I've talked to who have not had libido, who had experience early in life that led to problems with their sexuality. We know that almost half of women, and this was a survey of women between the ages of 18 and 59, so this wasn't all menopausal women, 43% of them said that they had some problem with sex. And it broke down to a third of them not interested, almost a third couldn't achieve orgasm, which is actually, for most people, an easy fix. Almost a third said sex wasn't pleasurable, and a fifth said that they had pain. And this was in 1999. There hasn't, unfortunately, been an equivalent study since then, but it was a really well done study. It involved thousands of women. And then people have looked at what happens at the menopause transition. So like I told you, in early menopause, the blue is women that don't have a sexual problem. So that first year in menopause, about 60% of women are still doing okay. What happens later on, and by year 8 in menopause, 88% of women are having a sexual problem. So if average age of menopause is 50 to 51, so by the time you're in your late 50s, which, these days, that's considered still fairly young and vibrant. Almost everybody, 88%, has some sexual problems. And like I said, these are very fixable. You just need to know where to go for help. Female sexual dysfunction, like I said, men's sexuality is much more straightforward than women. Women have a variety of things that can go on. First are the physiological things in the upper left-hand corner, and the things that I just talked about. Fatigue, the loss of hormones, the interfering medications. And then on the upper right, the psychological parts of things. Depression and anxiety makes you not want to have sex. History of prior sexual or physical abuse certainly can impact your sex life. Alcohol abuse issues and self-esteem issues that I just talked about. And then in the lower left, interpersonal relationships. Like if you hate your spouse, you are not going to want to have sex with them. It's a no-brainer. Sometimes partners don't know what to do, so that's part of what they can learn. Lack of privacy, I hear about that. I hear about people whose young children are able to barge into the bedroom anytime. Like there are not boundaries there. So if you have that situation, you're not going to be able to have a sexual, relationship until you're somewhere where your kids can't just pop in on you. So setting boundaries is important. And then in the lower right, the socio-cultural influences. So some of these are religious, societal taboos. You know, there are a lot of societies and cultures in which women aren't supposed to touch themselves. No one talks about women's orgasms or masturbation. That's a no-no. Societies where the whole clitoris and small lips are cut off to prevent women from having pleasure from sex. So, and then there's simply lack of education, because sex education, there's some sex education in public schools. It does address sexually transmitted infections and birth control, but it certainly doesn't cover the whole issue of sexuality and intimacy and what it means to have a sexual relationship. So women are pretty complicated. Men are fairly simple. For men, it's either an issue of hormones, like testosterone being low, or what we call a plumbing issue, which is the arteries are clogged. And so those are easy to take care of. So it's much simpler with men. There's a lot less of the psychological, self-esteem issues and all of that. So the question is, what can we do? And these people look pretty hopeless, but in fact, there's a lot you can do. So I'm going to give you a variety of tips that you can use. One is to make your love nest, because if you eat in the bedroom and watch TV in the bedroom and do work on your computer in the bedroom, that, number one, it does not preserve it as a good place to sleep, which will impact your energy and your health in general, and it doesn't make it a good place for sex. So you really need to create your love nest. Scheduling time for listening and sharing. How many of us go through life and don't ever really talk to our partners? Except for, can you pick the kids up? I'll get the groceries. Is the laundry done? We're supposed to go out with so-and-so on the weekend. Like, how many people really sit down during some part of the day and say, how did your day go? You know, what's on your mind? And because sex doesn't just happen for women. Women need to feel a connection. So guys, if you're listening, work on the connection.
Hear that, middleman?
Pardon?
Nothing.
And this is a really wonderful,
live too.
this is a wonderful gratitude exercise, which actually my husband and I did for a while, and then we kind of dropped off, and I think we should do it again. You take a time during the day, and you each take turns saying what you appreciate, something you appreciate about each other.
That's good.
And then you each say something that you're grateful for in life. And then you each write down something you wish for. It's in writing. And you show it to the other person.
That's good. I like that.
And it doesn't take long to do it, but it's a really wonderful connection. And this is kind of an extension of exchanging happiness list. What are the things you would wish for? Maybe you would love to go ballroom dancing, you think that's so sexy, and your husband had no idea, or your partner has no idea. So like, all you have to do is set up some ballroom lessons. I always tell my husband that cleaning up the kitchen is like one of the sexiest things he can do. That's a turn on. I don't have to do that. That puts me in a better mood.
Put a broom in your hand, that'll do it.
Right?
For vacuum.
Yes. That is definitely a turn on.
Releasing your anger. If you're angry and resentful, you are not going to want to have sex. So you have to work that out. Livening things up with personal lubricants. So you don't have to wait till sex feels like sandpaper. Lubricants can be a lot of fun. There are all kinds of lubricants. I listed ones here that I think are good products that don't have parabens and toxins in them. Foria, which is the one that shows the box with the little white bottle, is a company that has makes CBD products, and they have CBD in their lubricant. They make a lot of wonderful products for women,
It's really
and so it can help with pain and inflammation and things like that, as well as acting as a lubricant. I pick ones that are not silicone based, because although silicone glides and slides longer, it doesn't get as dry and sticky as quickly, I'm not sure about silicone and using that in an area where it can get absorbed from. So mainly I recommend water-based ones. Sliquid has one. The green one is Good Clean Love, which is a wonderful company that's all natural, and Sutil. Experiment with sex toys. So, you know, when women come to me and say, I've never had an orgasm, one of the issues is they have not explored themselves to find out what works. And so it can be as easy as trying some different things, get a vibrator, and find out what is arousing and what brings you to orgasm. And so sex toys can make sex more pleasurable, and especially as women get older, the nerve sensation decreases in the genital area, and so vibrators can be really helpful to help arousal. This is an incredible website called omgyes.com, and it is a really tastefully done website with women of all gender affiliations talking about what arouses them, how to prolong arousal, and it's just done beautifully. It costs like $30-some, and it's a whole series of videos. So for people who don't know what to do, don't know where to start, this is a really great start. There are herbal remedies. So Zestra is actually a lubricant, but it has a number of herbs in it. They've done a small study, which a lot of these companies do. They're not huge, randomized, controlled studies like the pharmaceutical companies, because they're not that big. But they did show increase in libido and arousal with Zestra, which is available online. And then there are herbal oral supplements, which work somewhat. I can't say they're great. They don't work as well as hormones, but they work somewhat in some people. And Biotics Research is a company that makes one called BioDrive. Designs for Health makes one called Libido Stim. There's one for men and one for women. And so there's things that you can try. I would say they work so-so. Scheduling time for sex. People always go, ew, that is so unromantic. Well, you know what's more unromantic? Not having sex and not being happy about it. So arranging a time, whether it's the kids get looked after, or you go out of town, or something, you have a time for yourself. And what's really nice is if the two of you can plan it, and plan a whole nice like dinner, or whatever it takes to lead up and make it nice and romantic.
Mm-hmm.
As far as what the conventional medical system has to do, offers women, well, this is a list of medications for men. And there are hormonal things like Testin, Androgel, Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, Caberject, help with a plumbing problem that we call it, help in blood flow. And what we have for women is one thing that got approved. It only works so-so. It has a lot of side effects, and it interacts with a ton of medications, including antidepressants, which unfortunately a lot of people are on. So that's not a big solution. Hormones are FDA approved. Well, estrogen, progesterone are FDA approved for menopausal symptoms, not for libido. So it's an off-label use of these things. There is no FDA-approved testosterone product for women, so it always has to come from a compounding pharmacy. So it's not illegal to use it, it's just that the FDA does not approve it specifically for sexual function use. These things work great. Mm-hmm. So estrogen helps your libido, it helps dryness. Testosterone helps libido, it helps arousal and orgasms. Progesterone is more of a balancer for estrogen, and it keeps you calm. And DHEA is another hormone that helps with libido. So these have worked really well for women. Some of the other things that we do is if somebody's on an antidepressant, sometimes adjusting the dose to lower will improve sexual function. There are some antidotes to the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors that activate other neurotransmitters and can help with orgasm. So I've had people, for one reason or another, could not be on estrogen, or only a few of them, and we added another one of these products and she became orgasmic again. So that's possible. Finding a doctor or therapist who's experienced with sexual problems. It's not easy to do. Most doctors have no idea, unfortunately, what to do. We got very little sex education. And there was a certain point in my OBGYN practice where I said to myself, I'm not having one more woman come in here and tell me she never had an orgasm or is having an orgasm problem, and I don't know what to do. And so I went on a whole training for myself, studying with people in Boston and other places, going to conferences, and learning a lot about women's sexuality. And so, you know, I feel like at this point there's very few questions that I would be stumped on regarding women's sexuality. But it really, we don't learn it in medical school. We don't learn it in our OBGYN residency. I mean, we're dealing with reproductive organs for 4 years. And we don't talk about sex in that training.
That's crazy.
So some tips to, if you're going to approach your doctor. This is really important. And you had mentioned, Amanda, about, you know, trying to get your own doctor to pay attention to issues. You definitely don't want to do an oh, by the way, because what happens is, like, you go for your annual GYN exam, they've got your 10 to 15 minutes scheduled, they do your breast exam, your pap smear, they ask you if you've had any intervening health problems. No, if you're healthy, that's great. You're done with your 15 minutes, and then you say, can I ask you one more question? And they got their hand on the doorknob. I'm having problems with sex. Number one, they don't know what to do about it. Number two, you just made them late for the rest of the afternoon. And so you want to make an appointment and discuss it at the beginning of the appointment. Now, I know why people wait. It's because we're uncomfortable. And why are we uncomfortable? For a variety of reasons. Sex is an uncomfortable topic for a lot of people. They've done surveys of women. Some women don't ask because they're worried it will make their doctor uncomfortable. So there are a lot of dynamics here, but you want to be sure that you mention it at the beginning of the appointment to get your best results. Make a list, stay focused on your questions, and then write down your answers to the questions. And then other things to ask about if any of your other health problems are affecting your sexuality, your high blood pressure, if you have cardiovascular disease. Could medications be affecting it? And this is real common with the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And then definitely if you have a proposed surgery of the hysterectomy, ask how it's going to affect your sexuality. So you don't need to put sex on the shelf at any age. We know that it's important to keep having sex. There are lots of health benefits. Well, there are psychological benefits like self-esteem and your relationship, but your physical health is improved by having sex. Your brain health is improved by having sex. So it's not just, a luxury. It's like one of the, big parts of life. Sex is not always about achieving an orgasm, although we did talk quite a bit about it. So for some reason, sometimes it doesn't happen, and really what you want is communication. So I've dealt with couples where one partner or the other is pretty ill, but they find a way to have sexual communication. It may not be penis-vagina intercourse, it may not be an orgasm, but it's close. We all have a physical need to be touched, and so closeness and touching and warmth and intimacy, it doesn't have to be penetration every time. And so sexual wellness is really the fulfillment of our basic needs for intimacy, pleasure, and love. And it has physical, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual components. It might mean coming to an understanding that sex is going to be different because of some problem or other. And that's the end of the talk. If people are interested in either getting a copy of the slideshow, you can text me at 562-280-2191 and write info, and we will send you a copy of the slideshow. If you would like to be on our list for future events and to get our blog posts, newsletters, write list, And we offer free consults, 20-minute phone consults, so if you're interested in one of those, write consult. Be sure to put your name and your phone number, and your email is helpful also. That's it.
Yay. Thank you.
Right.
Awesome. Anyone have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
Where's it?
Shoot.
So I actually was looking. This was out of the whole series. This was the one that I wanted to make sure I was at. So it was exactly that slide that met with her doctor,
Oh.
and yeah, and I'm like, so I brought it up to her. I have Libido, and she's like, well, can you still orgasm and that? And I'm like, yeah, but it's like there just isn't anything. She's like, well, just fake it till you make it.
Oh my
Right?
goodness.
Like-
I don't know if people heard
And I
that
fake it till you make it.
live on this
I mean,
recording.
That's
So
horrible.
the doctor said fake it until you
Right?
make it.
Yeah.
And she said
And
she's not feeling any
and I
libido.
specifically chose a woman doctor, a female doctor, and I already knew that like I had 15 minutes and they was gonna go top to bottom. They're gonna do the whole blood work, all that kind of stuff. So, but I wanted to ask that because I already knew I was not going to get an answer. So I will be texting you for the consult. Yes.
Hormones, can fix it. It's great. And then just,
And she
information.
did, she did talk about, she could prescribe some hormone replacement and everything, and I had already, come to the last seminar, but I already know that, it's an HMO. They're not going to probably prescribe me something that's a bioidentical. So it was just.
And I don't fault your doctor.
Yeah.
Because
She has to work
unfortunately-
within her system.
Right.
Well, it's a lack of knowledge.
Mhm.
I mean, I would have understood if she would have said, this is a big topic and you just come back another time or something like that. But it's lack of knowledge, and when you get told things like, just go on vacation, it'll be okay, or I haven't heard fake it till you make it.
Would, do you think
And
by
it's, it is sad for a partner to find out that you are faking it
Yeah.
when you make it,
Yeah.
that you're having sex just because they want to have sex and you're not feeling it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's difficult.
I've had a gynecologist tell me just use more lube
Yeah.
and that'll fix everything. And I'm like,
Right.
I don't know
It's
how
one of
that'll
those-
fix anything,
do
but
do doctors, would they, if you gave your name out to a doctor, would they send people to you, like if they knew more about someone like you? Because I know
Sure.
my own personal story is I was too busy at work and struggling, and hormones are changing, and you've saved our marriage is good, but men don't understand when a woman doesn't have the drive to do it anymore because you're too overwhelmed and tired, and just things are changing, and you're scared, and it's embarrassing to talk about that with your husband, but it's made a huge difference. In fact, I was telling my girls I ran out of my little testosterone cream last week, and I called
I know,
you.
you can't
I
test
need that
it.
cream.
Test.
Where's the cream? I need the cream. Can I run out? Is this gonna be okay? I did fine that weekend. But
so how does
I mean,
you have to use a cream and you just like apply it
Yeah.
down just
Yeah, and it
Okay.
changed everything.
really?
Yeah.
Right. And
Where
for
do you-
people,
that's interesting.
they're,
Down there?
Yeah, because
that's
it
what
wasn't
you're
that I
saying,
didn't
you
want
actually
to
apply
have
it.
sex.
Yeah.
It's that
Do you
I
apply
just
it
was
straight to
ever-
the clit? I don't understand.
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
where
the,
do you apply it?
the
Do you apply
compounding
it
on your
pharmacy
Yeah.
that we
I do
use
everything for it.
has a really wonderful olive oil-based cream.
Oh.
It's a proprietary formula, and they whip it up into a beautiful smooth cream
Yeah.
that does not irritate the vulva.
Yeah.
So, and
Not at all.
no,
Okay.
and so for orgasmic issues, you want to put it right on the clitoris and small lips because of those receptors in that area that accept the testosterone, and it changes how the cells and the nerves function.
And is that something that you prescribe?
Yes, right.
Yeah, and it's simple, and I think it's hard to talk about, but it's so important because that is
It's
really
human
important in a
nature.
marriage.
Yes.
Does it increase your
Yes.
It increases your desire and interest,
Desire.
and it improves.
And-
so there's two different
and your
things.
enjoyment of it.
There's libido, And then there's arousal and orgasm. They're all different, kind of phases
Request to
of
be individual.
sexuality. So first, usually you need desire.
That'll put
You
the
need to have
on the
sex.
screen.
And then the question is,
They have a question.
can you get aroused? And can you have an orgasm? And testosterone helps with all of those phases. Estrogen helps
You
with
will
the
put that
arousal
picture up on the screen.
and orgasm
You'll see
parts
that.
of it.
I don't know if they have a question.
DHEA helps with the desire part of it and also the arousal
Oh, is that-
part.
oh, never mind.
So the hormones, all work in different ways to address all of those different issues. Some women have desire, but they just can't have an orgasm, no matter what they do. So it could be a blood flow issue, it could be a nerve sensitivity issue, it could be a medication issue. So, we address it in whatever way is appropriate for that particular person.
I'll make an appointment. I'm coming to see
Well,
you.
you guys, I applaud you for having the courage to talk openly about your issues, and that helps other women realize that,
Yeah.
sit here and say, I don't have libido, and it's like the roof doesn't cave in. It's
Yeah.
like, we can help. So,
Yeah, because you feel kind of alone and you don't know who to talk to about that, but it is really important.
yes.
I just mentioned one thing, and I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but you mentioned the Foria, the CBD,
Right.
and it made such a huge difference for me, and I specifically used Foria too. I mean, there are plenty out there, but that's just the first one I tried. But I was sexually assaulted when I was 17, and it kind of just screwed up my whole sex life. Like, I couldn't enjoy it. I never really wanted it. And I found it to be painful, and I just didn't like it. And then I found CBD products and started using that, and it just made
Wow.
a world of difference as far as like sensation and stuff goes.
Wow.
And
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, it's huge
Do you
difference.
use their lubricant one?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's something that I just kind of breezed over in terms of past experiences, but sexual abuse, rape, sexual assault, it can have lifelong impact, and it's completely understandable, but until you kind of come out and
Yeah.
talk about it, nobody can help you with it. So, but I'm really glad to hear that about Foria.
It
Yeah.
really helps a lot. Yeah.
It's great. I've been really impressed with their products.
I'm sorry. Oh, what's the name of the product? It's
Foria.
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 Thank you.
Foria. Yeah, and they have a lot of products for women. They have a vaginal CBD suppository to help with endometriosis.
I've used those too, yeah. And I've
Yeah.
used those just specifically for endo, and they and I've used like CBD coated tampons and things like that as well that have helped a lot with that kind of pain.
Yeah. So I've been really impressed with their products. Any other questions coming through?
Not yet. That's all I think.
That was the one. What's the name of the product?
Yeah. All right. So we'll. Oh, I'm just responding. Yeah. Yeah. I think we'll cut it here, and I'll repost it in a blog.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I have removed my ovaries. Oh wow.
Oh, I've removed my ovaries and uterus and had breast cancer is what they're saying, and that's why they were asking about the Foria.
Right. So for women who have had breast cancer,
She says she can't have hormone replacement.
right. So women who've had breast cancer, most oncologists, cancer doctors, will approve the use of small amounts of vaginal estrogen for pain with intercourse. There also are products that have DHEA in them, which does a very similar thing to build up the linings and make those linings more elastic. And the CBD is a great option too. As far as libido goes, most forward-thinking oncologists do not have a problem with women being on testosterone after breast cancer. A tiny bit might convert to estrogen, but we can do blood measurements and be sure that estrogen levels are unmeasurable. So I've had a number of women post-breast cancer with the approval of their oncologist on testosterone.
Cool. All right. Well, that helps.
Should we add any other
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah. Go ahead. Let's see if you have any other questions.
Oh wait, yes, it all converts, she said.
What?
Yes, it all converts. Any
Right. It does. Generally not much converts.
Oh, she said things. Okay, that must be
Okay.
it.
Yeah, not much testosterone converts to estrogen. I've treated many women and we monitor their estrogen levels and they're not significant. So
Okay, good.
Okay.
Good. Yay.
Wait, yes, it all converts things. The hormone. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think she's the one who wanted to request to join. Let me just
Yeah.
see if I just go back and view it. If I can just get her in here.